Recording progress. There we go. So we are now recording.
Yay!
Do you want to introduce yourself to the internet?
Hi, internet. I go by Cabbage King on Board Game Geek, but you can call me Adele. I do a lot in the print and play forums on Board Game Geek, and a little bit, as Matt will probably mention, in playtesting some of the print and play contests that are out there, especially the solo stuff, because I play solo a lot.
Gotcha. Yeah. So how do you find all of this? Like, how get into gaming? Then how do you find like the contest specifically, especially since you're a player more so than a designer?
Not a designer at all. Yes, no desire to
so
design.
a lot more so. Yeah.
yes, no desire. I admire y'all who design, but I enjoy trying new things until my brain gets tired. And the print and play contests are great because they're a lot of the time it's affordable, right, to try a new thing. And since a lot of the playingcards.io stuff has started, it's gotten even easier to try something new and hopefully give some helpful feedback, just to feel like you're part of the process and I don't know, give back a little, since I get a lot of joy from solo print and play. But how did I get into gaming? So I don't know, about 4 years ago, I would say, I was trying to find a hobby that would help me with my social anxiety. And board gaming is really nice and structured. So you can have that social interaction with people you don't know, which is a little freaky, a little scary. And it gives you this very structured social way to interact, which I greatly appreciated. And so it really helped me get out of the house and make some friends locally in the Atlanta area. We have quite a thriving board game scene here, which, although granted the pandemic has
right, of course,
made that more difficult.
Right.
But so that got me into it, and then I've just always really enjoyed the idea that board games could, well, not board games, but that activities could be affordable and accessible to lots of people. So print and play kind of snuck up on me a little, partly because it's so easy to try a new thing. You don't have to go buy a game. You don't have to wait for a game. So that's nice. And I like it. Like, I could, during the pandemic, for example, I played a lot of games with a community I met on Twitch, the Losers at Losapalooza, and they would do a lot of print and play stuff, although theirs was more often like a roll and write style thing where you could just print off a sheet at home, that kind of thing. But they would do creative things and turn games that were not roll and writes into roll and writes so that they could play with the community that would show up, which I thought was really neat. So it's really fun. But during the pandemic, my solo play increased a lot. I already did it some, but obviously I had a lot more opportunity. And I've discovered that the solo play specifically it can be really helpful for my mental health. Granted, it's not super helpful on the social anxiety side of things, but it can be really great for just plain anxiety. It can help me like reset my brain a little, and I have a little depression too, so it can. There are different levels of games, right, in terms of difficulty, complexity, and so if my brain is particularly foggy, I've got a whole slate of games that will be like, here, you can accomplish this thing in 10 minutes. You know, like The Farmer and the Deal, which I believe was you. That's one of my top 5 solo games right now.
Oh, thanks.
And
glad you enjoy it.
I do. I love it. It's just a traditional deck of cards, right? So everybody could do it, and it's in hand, so I don't need a lot of table space, which can sometimes be an issue. So I mean, stuff like that, and that's part of why I participate in the community. I think is I so appreciate what you and designers like you do, especially when it's something that's not hard to get to the table for me, especially solo. That's why I like the traditional card deck games especially much.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. I feel like I've come across a lot of a lot of stories on here of people with different mental health issues and how gaming has kind of helped them through that type of stuff. And it's interesting. And I mean, so the structure of it, obviously, but it feels like there are lots of structured activities in the world. Like there's something else to games that are, it's a combination of what else is it? It's a combination of the structuredness, combination of
it's play. It's also
the
play.
Yeah.
Like there's a childlike joy that I get a lot of times. Like there's it gets me back to that, that joy, just play. Like people play in different ways, I know, but I was like, wow, it's kind of nostalgic, even though the games I play have nothing to do with what I played when I was a kid.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a little sad for the state of adulthood now that play is nostalgic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's interesting. So you found out about the contest through a community of other players, and then you kind of dove in yourself. It seems like how you got introduced to it. Because I'm always curious, like how different people find the contests, especially if you're just a player,
Well, the print and play forum. I don't know if there's a monthly print and play list on Board Game Geek where people share what they're doing with print and play. And that's where I hang out on Board Game Geek. That is the main place that I am there. And it's not unusual to see people sharing, oh, I'm trying out this from this contest, which has also been another way of finding out about it.
Right. So I'm interesting. So you found the traditional deck stuff though, because does that kind of stuff get shared on print play? Because that's not really print. It's always felt weird because I do a lot of standard deck things, and it's like it's not really print and play. It's just kind of play. There's no print.
But there's you have to print the rules usually, because
you don't have to. But
you don't have to. But I learn them better if I don't have a video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to go through the rules.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But and some of the print and plays may use a standard deck, but maybe you add a penny or a coin or something to track something.
A lot of
or a little pawn, like in Ripples and Branches, that lovely haiku game, for example.
But you still don't print that unless you have a 3D printer.
No, but I interpret print and play very broadly in terms of hands-on putting together in some fashion, even if it's just the normal deck.
Gotcha. So you don't take the print literally. Yeah.
I don't. Gotcha. I interpret it quite broadly.
Yeah. So you already spoke about how you kind of like to print and play and why a bit. But so you specifically, why I was looking forward to talking with you is you engage with the community. I feel like there's sometimes there's thumbs and there's a lot of lurkers in the contest too, but you seem to engage in the threads a little bit as just a player. And I feel like most of the feedback in there is from other designers. And so I was curious, what makes you get in and actually throw your feedback in there while a lot of people just I'm just going to play and enjoy without actually stepping in.
I had to get over my intimidation first because I'm not a designer. And so I feel like just from watching designers talk in the threads and things, that there may be a level of evaluation going on while you play a game that I don't have. So I had to get over that intimidation of when I play a game, I'm not evaluating in a designery mindset because I don't have one. I'm just going for the feeling, I'll be honest. And it took me a little while to get over to believe that was an important bit of feedback to give, even if it didn't change your decisions on what your game was like. I feel like part of what I enjoy most about games is the feelings that they evoke. And so I guess I felt like once I got past I have to talk about balance, I have to talk about designery things, which are important, but are not where I go first. Then I felt like I could give back. But as for so for me, getting over the intimidation factor of not being a designer and contributing feedback was a big part of it. But why do I give feedback and participate? I mean, I like the community and I want it to stay nice. And so I want to show appreciation in a way beyond a thumb, you know, as I have the energy to do so. But I, it's important to me to say thank you back. And that's a way I do it, even if my feedback isn't always particularly insightful.
No, I think it's like I said, you're like one of the rare ones, which is a good perspective. And I think I wish there was kind of more people who were lurking who would give feedback from just like a pure playing point of view, because obviously like most people like who, if you're going to have your game out there, you're going to have most people who are playing it aren't going to be designers, are going to be just people playing. So that is, so it's actually kind of, it feels like it's a little not balanced to have more feedback from designers rather than feedback from players. And exactly what you were talking about, the feeling of the game. Actually, in my first chat with Michael Merseg, he was specifically saying that he wished there was more feedback about feelings in games. And I think that is because exactly what you said, like designers are like, when they're playing the game, they're like, oh, how could this be improved? Or like, what's a little, could this be balanced a little bit better? And you're exactly right. Like the evaluation, and it's hard sometimes to give feedback that isn't just the pure play of it. But yeah, so I think your viewpoint is, I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see more people like you know, and it seems like other people feel that, other designers feel that way too. There were other people who in the comments had said, who latched onto that comment from Michael too, as something that they'd like to see. So yes, other people, if you are a player listening to this, like leave a few feedback. Doesn't have to be world-changing feedback, just your thoughts on your feelings. And yeah.
Well, and part of the challenge for me, aside from the intimidation thing, was also I have a little trouble learning games from a written rules. Like it's hard for me. It's why sometimes I rewrite rules and make player aids and things, because I I can think of, again, not a designer, but I will think of all sorts of questions that the rules don't answer, and exceptions and et cetera, because I'm like, does this mean that? Or, you know, I'll just assume something is completely wrong. So I'm a good playtester in that way.
No, again, that's great stuff. Like designers, I mean, I haven't been in this design community for super long. So when I say designers, I might be overstepping, but designers generally, you know, can
You've
think
put
about
games out there. You're in my top 5 solo games. So
yeah, since we think about, you know, putting it all together, you can think about the rules maybe perhaps easier than someone who has never set out and written a set of rules, because that first time writing a set of rules, it's very, I mean, it's never easy. I hate writing rules, to be honest. I wish I could just not write the rules and just be like, here, let me show you. Which in real
I
life
love
you
it.
can.
You've done videos for a number of years and they were so helpful.
Yeah.
Gosh, the farmer and the deal one, I want to ask you about that later, how you put that video together, because it was so approachable. And I like the sketched kind of, you know, it felt a little unfinished in a way that was appealing, you know, but also videos, so much easier to learn from the rule books.
Right. And yeah, so that's another interesting thing for when you approach a game, then will you wait and only pick out things that have videos so you can look at the rules and the videos, or do you just dig into the rules and
it'll move it to the top if there's a
yeah,
video how to, or even if it's not like a full how to, but it's just like playing through a little bit of it, it's going to put it much higher on the I'm likely to try this out.
right? And
It
it's
doesn't have
always
to be a fancy video. It really
right.
doesn't. There's just something about seeing somebody do a thing, even if I'm not doing it myself, that's just easier to pick up on.
Right. Yeah, and it's recommended in a lot of the design contest things for the designers to make a how-to, but it is just an extra step that some people don't take. But it seems like it does get you extra attention in plays, because it is having the two sources for people. I mean, you still have the written rules for people who like written versus videos,
and you need the written rules. You do. Not everybody learns from those very easily. And playingcards.io, that's why I made a couple of playthrough videos of a couple of the solo PNP contestants. is because I was like, oh, I could handle this. I can't set up a camera and nope. But playing
Yeah.
cards.io and a screen recording thing that comes with this Windows computer, that I could do.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like I've seen most of the ones that I see now are like playing cards.io playthroughs when I see someone do it in it, you know. So that's you got to know how to do the playing cards.io. So people
You do.
who are watching this, you know, go follow Uber Dante's blog that he's starting about how to do that,
Please
because
do,
that will be
because
helpful.
it's so much easier to use than Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator or a lot of things that are out there.
And it's free, right?
And it's
Yeah.
free. And like the barrier to getting into it is not nearly so high. And there's a lot of people in the community that will do it for you.
Right.
I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, I appreciate the one that you put together for one of my games. That was
Oh yeah,
nice.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I did that so
I was
I
one
could
of
play
those
it.
ones. Yeah. 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 That's because making, so a side note, those videos that I make take a ton of time. Like
I had
like
a feeling
them,
they did.
but they take a ton of time. And so I should just do a PCIO for my ones I have out there now. But I kind of like I said, I like the style of those other ones. So it's setting
The
aside
style
the
of
time.
yours, I understood, and it was
Yeah.
appealing and totally worth it. But given the time investment, I understand why you might not. But compliments, because yours was so easy to understand. But then you also, for someone who focuses so much on traditional decks, do so much story in the. It's amazing how much you put into a traditional deck. The farmer and the deal, the ripples and branches, like it's stuff you can grab onto, because as much as I love card games, and boy do I, I've gotten into trick taking insanely in the last 6 months to a year. A lot of them don't have any story or anything that ties in what you're doing in the game with that story. People say theme, but I like to say story, because just why am I doing this thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, is how I mean, it's different obviously for every player out there for these contests, but you know, some people like they just want a puzzle to solve and they don't really care about the story. Or, you know, it could be on the opposite side. Maybe there's the theme could ruin it for somebody. Like, you know, personally, I'm not into like zombies and high fantasy type stuff. So like if I see a game like that, I'm usually like, oh, I'll pass on that. But it could have been a fun puzzle to solve, you know.
That's the other thing that usually eliminates me from trying things, is the theme. I mean, there's a complexity level which I tend to avoid. There's themes I tend to avoid. I love themes like nature, farming. I don't like war or fantasy or space, which is funny because I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, but I don't like them in my games.
You don't like to be actively involved in that world. Yeah.
Well,
Gotcha.
a lot of the mechanics that seem to go with space and fantasy in the board game world, they don't interest me. Yeah.
Well, so tell what are some, this is another, we're just all side ranting here. So what are some mechanics? What are some mechanics with those that you see with those themes a lot? Because I'm not super into those themes, so I'm curious what mechanics I'm missing out.
Well, I see a lot of area control, which I don't like. I see a lot of deck building, which, despite loving card games, I don't like deck building. I'm much more on trick taking and interesting hand management and move through deck. I really like move through decks where you're going through the deck, but it's not deck building, right? There's a difference. It's like more Onirim, less, I don't know, Star Realms or something. So I'm not super into deck building or area control or war, like that head-to-head direct conflict. Although again, in trick taking, it's all things are out the window because I just love trick taking so much. But and a lot of times the complexity level is also higher. And the game goes longer than I want. I don't have the longest attention span. I'm not stupid, but I don't have a super long attention span. Part of what I like about gaming is I can't play asynchronously. I need the game to happen and be over and accomplished. I don't care if I win, but I want to be in that moment with you, or by myself for that matter, and have it done in like an hour.
Right. And so, well, so that's another thing. With your solitaire picking up recently because of reasons. The has that have when you've gone back to playing multiplayer games, do you feel like it's changed your viewpoint on multiplayer games at all now that you've done that more?
Strangely,
No.
no. It's made
Okay.
me appreciate solo more and for different reasons. Like that ability to sometimes reset my brain if I'm in a little bit of an anxiety spiral, or give me that sense of accomplishment of I managed to do a thing. Um, but no, I still really enjoy multiplayer. It has, however, this is, uh, it has made me a little less willing to play games that I'm pretty sure I won't enjoy. Like I can be patient in some, but if it's a mechanism I know I like really don't like, I'm
Mhm.
more likely to say, can we try something else?
Right.
Because I still really like multiplayer, but I'm even more invested in enjoying that time with the people I'm playing with, and maybe a little less patient with playing too many games that are outside of my interest, be it story or mechanisms, often mechanisms.
Right. Gotcha.
So I
Okay.
like new things, but I've also spent about 4 years in the board game world now, discovering what I don't like.
Right. That's not necessarily a symptom of playing solo so much, just as you learning what you like over time. And yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Um, so how about as a someone who's just a player in the contest, how do you approach the contest and what do you play? Like, do you scroll? Well, so you said you found a bunch on the print and play list, but do you also
Well,
do
that's
you
how I
scroll?
found it.
But do you scroll through the geek list? Like, how do you like? I'm just
Yes.
figuring out how people find the best ones for them to play. Like, what's the method when they approach a contest? You know.
So I start with the geek list, yes, and I just scroll through and I write down anything where the theme looks interesting, because I'll be honest, like the story of it, the setting makes a difference to me. It's what gets me interested in a game at first. It's pretty much always that. Um, and it's a lot of it is sorting out the ones where I don't like the theme.
Mhm.
So I go through and I'll be like, and then I'll look at because often the contest will tell you the when the designer is advertising it on the geek list, they'll have a little, these are the mechanisms I use, and is it solo or not? Because if it's not solo, there's a really good chance I won't get to test it. Um, so I guess that's where I start. Do I like the setting, theme, story? It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just, is it one of the ones I really don't enjoy? Um, is it mechanisms I like or don't like? If it's deck building, I just probably won't try it. And there's a lot of deck building. It seems to be very popular. And
Yep.
then, is it soloable? Because if it's not soloable, for me, it's going to be very hard to get to the table. Because when I play with other people, except for some specific trick-taking discords I'm part of, I don't know if you've heard of the Portland Game Collective, but they have a Discord, and it's wonderful. There I will playtest things because we set up a time. We're all agreed to be playtesters. But for a lot of my in-person stuff, we don't playtest. We play games. They may be old games or new games, but they're already designed and in a finished state.
Right.
Um, Now I've lost track of what the question was. Oh,
Well, so it's well, actually, it's good. Let me step in here. So when you look at those, like the geek list, and decide what you want, is there anything you would like to see out of that structure or format that could help you better, find what you're looking for, or
I
be
mean,
better informed of the game?
I really want the player count. I want to know, are you solo or are you not? And I suspect for other people who play test, they probably want to know, like, is it 2-player, or, because maybe that's the count they can get to. So for me, player count is the big deal. I would like to know the main mechanisms, if you know them. I mean, the problem is, that's why sometimes I look at stuff and make a preliminary list, and then go back in a week or two and see if they've uh, focused in on what their mechanisms are going to be, because it would be really helpful. I'm not super good at playtesting in the very beginning of a game's life. it's so chaotic that it's tough for me. I'm better
Mhm.
like midway, midway or closer to the end. Like when you've settled on some of the core somethings to the game.
Right.
So it would be helpful to know player count. It would be helpful to know uh, main mechanisms if you know them. It would be great to know if there's a PCIO, a playing cards.io room, because that's so easy for me. I don't even have to go find a deck of cards and I can try out your game. I've fallen in love this year with playing cards.io. It's just so much easier to use as a player.
Right.
I use Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia some, but I do not enjoy it at all. I'm like, I don't want a physics engine. If I'm not playing in person, just make the interface easy for me, please.
Right. Yeah.
What else would be? I mean, I don't know. Playing time is also an issue, so that would be nice to know. It's weird. I feel like I'm saying the things that are at the top of BGG final game pages. It's like player count. How long does it take? I don't know that the designer would estimate complexity, but I get a lot from how long does it take. That usually gives me a sense.
Right. Yeah. Complexity is a whole
It's so
debate. A whole debate.
subjective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure these are very original ideas, but yes, this would really help, because that plus can I do playing cards.io would be nice. Or if it's because a lot of the contests are PNP, if there's not a playing cards.io, some idea of how long it might take to build um,
Mhm.
for someone who is okay at print and play. Maybe not fabulous, but
Right. Yeah, that's a good one, because that's not one that I think is usually suggested by the contest designers to put in those posts.
like what's my outlay of effort to learn this thing? Oh, is there a video of either how to play or a little snippet of a play session? Like what's my how much time is it going to take me to get into this game? Because I want to help, but only so much energy and time.
Of
So
course, it's a fun hobby. It's not your job.
yeah, it's my happy place.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's like, I forget if I make a video, I usually forget to go back to the geek list. So that's good for me personally to remember
Ooh.
to update the geek list, because I usually just update my thread and forget. I forget about the
No,
geek
no,
list.
no,
Yeah,
because I don't necessarily go into the thread until I've
right,
kind of decided I'm gonna
right. Yeah, so
I'm
that's
gonna help,
so like doesn't, because I feel like some designers like to put their games up like when it's very rough idea phase, and
which is great.
um
Feel
but
free.
like so like if that interests, when you say like that interests you, do you subscribe to the thread? You like, how do
I
you
do,
follow back up with
yes.
that?
If
Okay.
if I'm interested enough in the setting or the other things we've talked about, yes, I will subscribe. Um, because that is so helpful. But sometimes I will unsubscribe later if I figured out, oh no, this is going to go mechanism A or B that are not my thing. Um, so yes, I will subscribe, but only if there's interest. And I hate to say it, but the setting or the story is a big part of where the initial interest comes from.
Yeah, I mean, some people are mechanism people, some people are theme story people, or I
Sometimes
mean,
it's
everyone
designers.
is both.
Sometimes it's
Uh,
designers if it's you, or if it's like John Burton or something, where I have enjoyed games in the past, I'm more likely to subscribe
right.
as well.
Yeah.
But I only know a few designers, so
Well, you'll learn more the more you stick around, right?
yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I was just thinking about that, because I personally am I like to put my ideas up. I like to spend a lot of time with them before I actually put them up. So I'm not one of those people who throw them with idea. And I'm just wondering if that's a something that's potentially harmful for those people who are those type of people who put them up early, because people like they don't know enough yet, and then they don't loop back around to it. So I'm curious how many people actually, because we can't see how many people are subscribed. We can see a thumbs up, but you can't see how many
Ah,
people subscribe to your thread. So you don't know
interesting.
how many people are actually following. That's why thumbs are actually kind of nice, because it's like I assume that person is subscribed to the thread if they gave a thumb, but I don't know how many people are.
Sometimes I give a lot of
Okay.
thumbs because I may appreciate what you're doing, even if I can tell it's not for me. I may really appreciate what you're
Okay.
doing, so I might thumb without subscribing. But
Okay.
I will never
So
subscribe
my
without
assumption is
thumbing.
incorrect.
Sorry.
No, that's good. No, that's good to know. Because it's, yeah, I was talking about this with Uber Dante too. I call him Uber Dante. But that's what
Call me
he's in there.
cabbage. People
Yeah.
do. It's fine.
Yeah. Because we were talking about how like it's hard to know how much, like, again, this is why it's like nice that you are one of the players who actually comments and gives, because it's lets you know there's someone there actually interacting with it. Because a lot of the times, like,
It's a big ball of silence.
yeah, like there was one contest I was in, I had a game that literally had no comments on it, and which, again, maybe obviously it didn't get people that excited about it, but it also, like, it came third place in a category, so I'm like, I'm just like, I can't, like, so anyway. it's yeah, so it's good. I wish more people, well, I know some people don't want to put in the effort, because once you engage with perhaps a game, you feel like you have to continue to engage with it, and you don't want, so there is some commitment to it.
That's true. There is that commitment aspect, but I'm trying not to feel that. And actually, I don't feel that a ton. I feel that some,
Okay.
depending on how much.
I feel that personally. So
yeah,
so I don't know how many.
I feel that a little, but it's more important to me that in general, I'm spreading the joy of games by saying, "Hey, thanks for this." You know, even if that's it. Even that's all I do.
It is much appreciated. Okay, so you had something else you wanted to talk about. You wanted to give a little demo of. So why don't we, before I forget about that, why don't we get that?
Okay, so I have some tabs. Well, I have some tabs pulled up. So if we share, I just want to quick go through a couple of tabs so that people know, hey, you should be looking at this.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Share my screen. Is my screen sharing successful? Do you see my Board Game Geek?
I do.
Fabulous.
I see Indus right there.
2500 BCE. I just want to say, for the solo-y people out there, you should check out this game. I post a solo challenge every month that is different and unique, and you can play along at home with just printing. Highly recommend it. It's like it's a little bit like cartographers, but I find it more satisfying.
Okay.
So please, if you like this sort of thing, join us, play along. It's fun.
So you run a challenge, you just come up with is it like a scenario type challenge for that?
So it's if you've heard of cartographers, it's a roll and write game, right? Except you flip it right. You flip the card and you do something based on that card. So you get a grid that is your ancient Bronze Age city, which I think is so cool. It's not war, and it's not fantasy. It's actually a Bronze Age civilization that was huge, which I like. So you get this grid and you are drawing certain things on it, certain types of terrain, certain buildings, etc. You're building your city up, right? But of course you have goals. I like to think of them as city planning goals, because, you know, they made a grid. Obviously there was a lot of planning, and you're just competing. And through this solo challenge, I lay out cards. Like, in the game, you choose one of 3 cards and you draw that on your sheet, or you collect resources that let you build buildings, basically. And so we can all play along with the same outline of a challenge and see if people do better or not. I mean, I don't care if you do well or not, as long as you have fun. But yeah, every month I post this. So if you like solo play, here you go. Here's a thing that's basically free. Second,
nice.
Every year around October, Kevin Erskine does a massive job of collecting top 20 solo game nominations from.
I can't believe he writes that he hand does this. That's crazy.
Oh no, I would totally make a Google form or something. Yeah, I don't know how he does this, but he does. Y'all should follow along, because there's some really good stuff on there, and more of my kind of thing is making it this year, which is the less complex, faster stuff. Very excited about that. In fact, maybe in the next week or two, I'll be posting my own top 20. I mean, I already submitted it to him, but I'll have a whole list of the games that I find a little brain fog friendly and lightweight. This is the list I mentioned. Martin Gonzalez is a god among men. And I say this, like he manages this every month and is so wonderful at sharing his knowledge and encouraging community. It's like my little niche in Board Game Geek. This is where I live. I look at other stuff, obviously, but this is where I live.
Gotcha.
And this is the next design contest that's coming up. So if you've already participated in the solo P&P, maybe like me, just playing stuff and voting, this one looks really good as well. I think, Matt, you have some stuff in here. It's not because it's you, it's just this is my next thing.
No, there's a lot in that already. It's not
29 items.
Yeah, there you go. 29 games. Yeah. So yeah, it seems to be traditional as decks are getting into people's minds. Yeah.
I'm excited about it. If you like print and play, this is very affordable. It's like $4 for the solo expansion in the base game. Super easy. But now let's talk about nandeck. So if you are a designer, I suspect this would be very helpful to know about. Now, it lets you prototype cards quickly. That is basically the advantage. I use it because I print and play, and there are a lot of out of print games that I can't afford to, that you can't get or I can't afford to get. So I do this not because I'm a designer, but because I want to play these old games.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this one works on Windows. So if you're on a Mac, again, Martin Gonzalez, God Among Men, has found a program called Multideck that I gather is very similar to nandeck, but runs on Mac. It's that same idea, though, of you make a spreadsheet. Let me show you an example spreadsheet where, let's say, you put the name of the card, the type of the card, how many of that card you want to print up, and you break it out. Like you think about your card as having areas, and you just put those into a spreadsheet. And then you can use nandeck, which is just free, which I'm so happy about. There's a little bit to learn to do it, but again, and it's a little more complicated than playing cards.io, but I think it really speeds up your prototyping. So if you're not doing traditional decks, highly recommend this. And the best way to learn is from this person, Ludo Lodge. They have the best free YouTube tutorials on how to get started with nandeck. Obviously, Martin Gonzalez has the best multi-deck get started with.
Yeah.
But it's not as bad. I'm hoping this doesn't look horribly overwhelming. It probably
so
does.
So with these, I've never used nandeck, but is this do you have to do all the coding, or are there buttons you can press to import like those code words, or
There is a, what do they call it, visual editor that you can use to do some of it, and it'll help a little. But I will say it's worth it to not do that, because once you have learned certain things, you can just copy and paste them in, and you can copy other people's stuff, kind of like playing cards.io, right? Where you just go, For example, I for one of the print and play contest things, Emmet and the Spider's Web, really cute game from I think Margie in South Africa. It's absolutely adorable. This is an overly complicated one because her cards were cool and had a lot of things going on.
Right.
But I posted this in her thread so that you could, people could look at it and get an idea of how it works. But I've done simple ones like Fish for Rail Forever is a Japanese game that's just I can't get a hold of. And you can use it to output something like, don't judge me on how ugly this is. Come on, open. It's
working.
To do something like this, where you just got this nice PDF of 3x3 cards.
Right.
These are very basic. I acknowledge that.
No, you're just showing off what it can do. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is not a ton of lines of code, and it's just based on that spreadsheet. So if you're already organizing your how I design cards, like maybe they have certain power levels or they have certain what have yous, this can be really fun. You can get more complicated, as I did with the Emmet and the Spider's Web one, because I was curious, like, could I do it? Because it's so cute. It's just so cute, which, as we know, is a thing. But it's not as bad as you think, especially if you go look at Ludo Lodge. That person really like eases you in. But then you can do fun stuff like this, or if you're not me, you could probably do better.
No, it looks, yeah, and it seems like it would be really good for quick prototypes. I mean,
Yeah, because if you're designing every card by hand, that's going to slow you way down as a designer if you're not using a traditional deck.
yeah, I think most people in these contests use something like this, but for designers who have not been in a contest yet, maybe put off, maybe they don't know it, because I feel like every contest I do see, maybe with one new person, like, what do you use? And I have seen nandeck come up a bunch. So
the only drawback is really there's a level of complexity above playingcards.io, and of course is Windows. And I've been told there's ways you can make it work on Mac, but I don't know how to do that.
Right. No, that's very interesting that you use that to make old games too. I'd never even thought about, because I've actually, I've had the same exact thought as you, like, oh, that Japanese card game looks interesting.
Right?
Can't get it.
Yes.
So,
and Skulls of Sedlec, my favorite solo game, like I've used it to resize it because it's so portable. But then when you lay it on the table for the solo, you're making 2 9x9 or 9 card things, so it takes up some space. So I resized it to about the size of a gum pack card. Like,
gotcha.
It just make it more fit your life and your pocket size.
Yeah. So you took all so you would download the PNP files that you already had, and then you just uploaded them. Gotcha.
Well, and I've got a cheat. I installed what's it called, GIMP, which is like a photo editor that's free. And on Windows now they have Ubuntu for Windows. It's like Linuxy for Windows. And so after insane amounts of testing, I figured out a line of code I can put in there that will turn those PDFs into high quality, like JPEGs, so that then I can, cut them apart if I need to with GIMP. I hope this doesn't sound overwhelmingly technical, but this is the product of a couple of years of PNP work. Of just, I wanted the print and play thing to like fit what I wanted. Or I wanted a Japanese game a lot of the time that just doesn't exist.
Yeah, and some people like the puzzle of figuring out how to make your game, too. So
yeah,
I assume that's most of the people in the PNB community, rather than, I mean, there's obviously the ease of access, but also there's something to the craftiness and puzzle of figuring out how to make the game that is appealing to. Yeah,
exactly. It's that same love of puzzles, but you can tell I come from the print and play direction into this contest.
Right. Yeah, and that's interesting for me as someone who is not coming from that direction at all.
Well, and I even redid Cartographers because I enjoy the game, but I find the graphic design awful. It's so dark and hard to read things, and so I completely redid all the cards so that I could read them. They're not pretty, but they're so legible.
Yeah. So that's another. What kind of graphic design things? I mean, I feel like there are some basic ones that come up a lot, but what are some graphic design things to throw at designers? Like, hey, please keep this in mind as a playtester.
Oh, yes. So, okay, color contrast is a big deal. Do not put black text on a dark blue background, for example. Do not put white text on a yellow background. Like, think about the contrast between the text color and the background color, please. And white space is important. And I don't mean the color white. I mean, don't pack too many things onto a card. I will get overwhelmed, especially if they're in weird places for no apparent reason. Like, especially in the early ones. I mean, I love when something is beautiful, but I need to be able to use it first. Like get me to it's why the standard deck of cards is so amazing. I mean, they have the hearts in every corner. The number of the card and the suit of the card is in every corner. It doesn't matter if you're splaying to the left, you're splaying to the right. Oops, you turn it upside down. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Because that's hundreds of years of thought into good design. When people make cards and they only put the number and the suit in like the top left and the bottom right, I'm like, no, some people splay their cards the other way.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, there's actually many reasons, but one of the reasons why I use traditional deck is because exactly what you said. It's like, oh, this has stood the test of time. It's like people know it, and it's like it's designed well. I don't have to worry about that part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe more people could emulate that, even if they're using custom cards.
Yeah, because you can make custom cards that take those things into account. You can.
Right.
Don't make them too busy. Make it clear so it doesn't matter which way you play it. Not all custom card decks can do the traditional deck of cards thing, right? Where the back is the same general pattern. So if it's upside down, it's not really upside down, because sometimes people have to do like, there's a shape here and there's explanation of scoring here or something. But if you do indexes, if you do like a 4 of hearts, put it in every corner, please.
Right.
And think about your color contrast choices.
Yes. I mean, I think the big thing is just, before you throw a prototype out there, the print, try it out yourself and see how it feels in your hands. So if you can't see it, obviously.
Well, and if you can put some kind of gray filter on it so that you don't actually see the colors, just see in black and white, is that a high enough contrast? You know what I mean? Like if you printed this in black and white, would this text show up on this background?
Right. Right. And what you say about the simplicity of information on the card too is a tough thing from a design standpoint, because I feel like most of the time people start with too much information and cut down.
Yeah.
So do you find that, so obviously you find that off-putting, but is that something that would potentially keep you from re-engaging with the game? Like that, like if it's too much information, like, oh, I'm just done with this game. Like, so should designers think about building their cards up simple to more complex in the opposite way?
Yes. Just like web design, always start with the simplest first. Or marketing or whatever. Like, what is your essential? You're thinking about mechanisms being essential, but I need you to think about what is the essential information to communicate with your graphic design, please. Because again, attention is short.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that is like you just want to make a card with the information, but sometimes you also then have to think about how you can make a shorthand or a symbol or logo for that information instead.
If you can come up with a cohesive and clear graphic design language, set of icons, whatever, that mean the same thing, because then you can explain them in some detail in the rule book or rules video. And then, because a picture is worth 1,000 words if the picture is good.
Right. And yeah, I think that's some good information. But it brought me to, because the only time I've had to do that type of thing is I've done a couple roll and writes. Otherwise, I've just done
Songwriter's Notebook.
Stand deck. Yeah, and that one I started with a lot of text and had to filter out. So in terms of like the roll and write area, and it sounds like you came from that area to start with. Is there any roll and write specific playtesting point of view advice for a designer?
I mean, the use of icons is so crucial there, because you've only got so much space, and some people are going to need to print bigger because maybe they can't see as well, or so for example, if in your roll and write, yours was very simple in terms of what you were asking me to roll and or what you're asking me to write, but some people will do complicated symbols. Don't do too complicated symbols, especially if I mean, even if I print your thing bigger, it may be hard for me to draw complicated things. So I mean, consider very basic shapes for the part I have to draw. Now, I like it when people do complicated drawings and cartographers, but most of the time I don't do that because I'm just playing for the play factor and less the drawing. But don't require that it be a complicated symbol that you're drawing.
Right. Let people opt in. Yeah.
Yes. Opting in is great. I don't know if I have a lot of roll and write, so not too many words and things, just generally on the sheet itself. Yeah, I don't think I have as much useful information.
Yeah, that's fine. On that. I just from with my experience with those two that I did, it was interesting, like, because I wanted to have some words on there. I felt like I wanted to be able to have enough for them to be able to not have to reference the rules so much and just have the
Yes.
sheet. So
Yes.
it's interesting with like when it's just like cards or something. I feel like there's more expectation of, oh, you have to look at the rules. But when I feel like there's a sheet, it feels like for some reason it feels like it should all be encapsulated there. You know?
Well, because you're trying to get to both the novice who's never seen your game before and the experienced player as well, right? You're trying to
Right.
get that enough information if this is your first play that most of it, what you need is right there. Or, I've played this before. I'm not a novice, but I don't want to reference the rule book. I
Right.
get that. I think that's very valid and important. It's
Yeah.
too important to audiences to think about.
Design is tough, no matter what.
I believe you. I believe you. I appreciate people who
and I
do
only
it.
do standard deck games. I don't know people. I mean, obviously you just showed nandeck, which is a is a helpful tool, but even with like some automation tools, like people who are designing like 200 card deck
I know.
games, I have enough designing like the theme and the mechanics and stuff, but to put
Yes.
together all the other stuff is like, it's a lot of work. I don't know how to do it, and to go through all the iterations of having to change. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know either. No idea.
Yeah. So all you guys and gals out there who make 2-hour long, huge, expensive games, kudos to you, because I don't know how to do it. Uh-oh, you froze there for a second. Can you still hear me?
Oh no.
Oh. Are you back?
Hello, are you back?
There you go.
Jinx.
Okay. 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 Well, I think I covered a lot of stuff there. Was there anything else that you wanted to? Any other topics you specifically wanted to talk
No,
on?
we covered my little cheat sheet list.
Your cheat sheet list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Well, okay. So something I've just been asking anyone in general here is there anything in general that you would like to see more of on the Board Game Geek? I usually say the design contest community, but you're also involved in the other communities too. Is there anything you'd like to see more of in either of those places?
I would say in especially my PNP community area, and some in the design community, I would like to see more of what I see there in terms of the friendliness and the openness to different opinions and things. Because as we know, like for example, I count all sorts of things as print and play, and the community lets me get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're coming together for to share joy and make a space that is welcoming, I think. And as someone who chose their username partly to obscure my gender, because I wasn't sure how that was going to go.
Yeah.
On an online forum that is gaming is still kind of male, kind of masculine. So I tiptoe in. This will be my big reveal, I suspect, for people who didn't know which gender I was.
Right.
She, her, just in case we're unclear. But I picked a name that wasn't, so that people would respond to what I was saying and not to who I was. And I like that in the two main places I hang out on Board Game Geek, and I would like to see that in more places because it's not everywhere.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting. I specifically on that point, a while ago I put up in the women's gaming forum, I put a post asking if there were I noticed there was a reason there wasn't any like women in the design contest I was in, and it's like, is there a reason why there's not? I mean, I assumed from the usernames and the names written in the rule book and in the response I mostly got was like, it's just kind of the ratio, it seems to be on there.
There is a ratio aspect, right? If we're not playing the games, we're not probably percentage wise going to be designing the games.
Right.
There are more women designers now though, but I don't see them in the print and play solo contest, especially, which is my favorite contest. But there were some more this year. Margie was brand new, which was very exciting. And hers was so cute, so cute.
Yeah, I think there were a few.
Yeah, because is Nan? I forget. I don't think I know about Nan.
I don't know Nan, but there is um
Oh, and
man,
Dr. Janine or Dr. Figlietti. The
Crossword Adventure is one. That was a woman.
garden builder and rolling
Yeah,
dough.
so there were a handful in the solitaire this year.
Yeah,
That's
and more
good.
than I think in I'd seen in the last few years. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want more of that. And I say this as someone who would like to see more women designers, but doesn't want to be one. So I don't know, mixed messages there, but
Oh, so that's maybe one more thing there is what how is it that you enjoy engaging in the design community? Have you like I just feel like
mm,
few people have told me about that they've been kind of they got into it from the playing and thing and then they kind of got the design bug. Have you ever had the inkling of designing and you
nope,
just have no
nope,
desire whatsoever?
nope.
So it's just yeah, so you just yeah.
It's like
Okay.
I would prefer to edit someone's rule book rather than try to come up with a game that rules.
Oh
Like
great.
I like that better. I just got done rewriting the Indus rulebook because I love the game so much, but I was so frustrated with how hard it was for me to teach and explain, and so just rewrote it from the bottom up. Um, I mean, it's still hard, but in some ways, because it's so hard for me to learn from rules, the rules I write are really clear.
Well, that's good. That's very valuable in the threads, that type of feedback. And I'm sure many people would want to, hey, you want to
Well,
edit my rule
but
book?
but then
I
I
would
have to
love for you
learn
to
it.
edit my
But then I
rule
have
book.
to
Yeah,
learn it before, like
yeah,
to be able to re-explain it well. I have to be able to
right,
learn it from your rule book first, which is where the videos are so helpful, because then I can
right,
be like, oh, I see what they intend,
right.
because I can understand that when I see it happen in a way that maybe the rule book can't get to as easily.
Okay. Yeah, I hate rules. I hate writing rules. I hate them.
Maybe you need to make videos and ask if somebody would like to turn that into a rule book.
I've been very tempted just to like do a voice to text thing and just like
Yes,
let that be, but I feel like
that's that's
that would not be
but
concise enough to read though.
but that could be a first draft. That's getting it out of your head onto paper. Just always think it's like what I liked about, I know it took you a lot of work to do the videos, but your sketch approach, where it was literally sketches, was so unintimidating because it implied a certain openness to feedback and unfinishedness that I really appreciated. It was like so much less intimidating. Rule books should start that way, like just voice to text. It's draft one. It's awful, but it got it out of your head.
Yeah, so the rule books. So do you find more because rule books are usually thought, they're very structured
Yes, very.
and very technical,
Hmm.
usually sounding, right? Except for like
Yes.
the flavor text that usually like people always tell me, can you put your flavor text in italics? I don't want that in the rule book, like in the same sentence as the actual rules. I get that a lot in mine.
Oh,
It's like,
it depends on how much it actually inform. So again, card games, I love trick taking, but I have such trouble teaching them to other people because a lot of times it's all technical and I have no story to grab onto why you would do a thing. R Eco, one of the best card games of all time, not trick taking, took me like 2 years of loving the game before I could figure out how can I explain this in a way that actually makes sense, that people can grab a hold of as a story of why they're doing what they're doing. Um, I
yeah, but I mean that's a problem too because there's different types because I'll have in the same like in the solitaire one, I'll have people will give me direct, obviously there's different people, but people like, oh, I love that your rule book is so thematic and that helps me learn the rules. And then I'll have another
yes,
person be like, you really need to cut down your thematic sentences because it's really throwing me off from learning the game. And it's, you can't please everybody. So
I know, I
yeah,
know. Oh, well, for me, it's not just the theme, right? It's the theme that's tied to the mechanism.
right.
Like, why is the spade is the shovel? You're digging the hole for the seed, and farmers in the deal, like, oh, that makes sense. Like, it explains the progression of, dig a hole, plant a seed, grow a heart-shaped flower. that kind of thing. Spend the diamonds money. Like it tied in for me. It wasn't theme for theme's sake. It was theme that explained the mechanisms. You do it very well. Not everybody does. And,
Yeah,
and I can
well,
understand there are different perspectives from me who want just the,
right,
but again, I'm not a designer.
right. No, but yeah, it's good to hear all this information from outside people. Yeah, I could go on talking about this for a while, I guess. Yeah, why don't we say our goodbye here? So,
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. I
I'll
really
say a few
appreciate
things
it.
afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
So goodbye, internet.
Goodbye, internet.